Going live. What is up, guys? Block FPL here. Welcome back to another Fantasy Premier League live stream. I am just making sure this works properly because an error has occurred with my playback, but hopefully everything is okay. Let me know if it is. Today, obviously, let's talk about Game Week 24, and that deadline is tomorrow. I personally don't think I have to make any transfers, but I will talk about some of my benching decisions personally, as well as talking about some of the best options and sort of reviewing what happened in the last game week with regards to certain statistics some that I've looked at already, some that I haven't taken a look at. For the stream, I put it on, so there's 3 different settings for live streams. There's like normal latency, low latency, and ultra low latency. I put it on ultra low latency, which basically means that I will be reacting to your chat earlier. There's less of a delay. I counted it. It was like 23 seconds earlier, so we'll see if that's any better. Hopefully it doesn't sacrifice the quality in any way. So giving that a try, and of course this will be uploaded as a video after it is a live stream for those of you watching it then. First of all, I sort of want to mention what happened last week. I guess that's a good place to start. But yeah, look at this team. Pretty good fixtures overall. I don't think a transfer is necessary, as I said, so that's not really an issue. And I could say the transfer. I have more of a benching headache than anything, especially dealing with Bruno. Hey, Nasty Balls. Hey, Blues. How is it going? So 55 points, like a tiny green arrow. Doesn't even count. Captaincy was a success. I should have went with a Iheanacho, I suppose, but I was never really going to do that. But basically it was Salah, Lowton, and Iheanacho, and Johnston. Johnston didn't keep a clean sheet, but he got a bunch of saves and some bonus. So those were the only returners. Not really a great week, but at least I got the captaincy right, because otherwise it would have been absolutely terrible. Liverpool only scored once against Newcastle, but Jota, Mane, and Salah all had 3 or more shots. So they didn't really look terrible. They could have scored some more. And that's kind of important because they played Newcastle. Now, Arsenal play Newcastle this upcoming week. I have Saka. I have to decide whether to bench him. I think it looks pretty good for Arsenal attackers. Saka had 1 shot against Everton, but he did also have, 2 key passes? He had 2 shots, according to this. I looked earlier on a different site. He said he had 1. But a combined expected goal involvement in last match of 0.27. That's not too bad coming into this game against Newcastle. So I think I'm favoring him over Bruno. Bruno did have 2 shots last game, and of course he's always on penalties. He's always got some sort of threat there, but I think the Newcastle matchup is just very good at the moment. I like that every single Liverpool attacker basically had a chance to score. I think it looks pretty good for Saka. If we check out the EPL standings, we'll see who has stuff to play for and who doesn't. I know Newcastle have at least something to play for with regards to safety, but I'm not sure exactly their status. So they're still 16th. And I mean, honestly, they're probably going to be safe, but Fulham or West Brom could always come out of nowhere. I would expect them to be safe, but you would think they would defend a little better because of that. But last game, we certainly didn't see it. Arsenal weren't terrible, even though they lost 1-0 to Everton. They had more expected goals by a small amount. It was like 0.7 to 0.5 in Arsenal's favor. So you could say they got unlucky, or Everton were simply good. But I'm not going to look too much into that, considering that Saka's numbers weren't bad. If he puts up those numbers every time, I would expect him to get 1 return every 4 games. And that's not terrible. That's about what Saka and Bruno have been doing recently, I would say. Maybe not Saka. Maybe he's been doing a little bit worse. But that's where I currently stand as far as Saka versus Bruno goes. Let's go to potential transfers. One thing Chris Wood, honestly, he took so many shots last game. He was impressive. But I don't think it's worth jumping on the bandwagon just yet. Against West Ham, it could be a little bit tough. Fulham, maybe defending well. I don't know. Leeds have been defending well too recently. So it's kind of Fulham's the best matchup, but I think given the options we already have, it's not really worth selling. Bamford has great fixtures over this time period, and Chris Wood's simply not that trustworthy where I'm going to go against that. Let's take a look at Iheanacho's fixtures. Obviously, he's still got two good ones. Maybe getting rid of him, for Chris Wood as a differential could be the way to go if that's what you're looking for. But the one thing I did want to say is Chris Wood in Gameweek 38 is a very interesting option because, of course, they play Sheffield United, and that is a fantastic matchup against an already relegated team. And although I would personally not be a huge fan of that move, a lot of people may be looking for a differential at the end of the season. So that's certainly one to keep an eye on all the way in Gameweek 38. Fulham and Newcastle play each other that week, so I feel like that takes away two of the potentially, teams that are on the beach or already relegated that could be high scorers against them, so that kind of ruins two good fixtures. Liverpool playing Crystal Palace could be big as well. Even Man City, Everton, of course, but oftentimes there are a lot of big scores this final week. And I think Burnley potentially against Sheffield United could surprise some people, based on how we perceive Burnley typically as not a high goal scoring team. One thing I have to worry about in the future, this is not top priority, but it's worth mentioning, is Johnson has terrible fixtures and Areola only has 3 good fixtures. So Game Week 37, I'm going to have to play a keeper with a bad fixture. That's a potential luxury transfer for me to keep in mind. Loughton, not the worst fixtures as I mentioned with Wood, but I'm not too excited about playing him upcoming. Target is terrible fixtures, but he's got a double at some point. So Matt Target is one that honestly I'm interested in selling. Let me go to Ben Creelan and see if he has any more certainty about when the double is going to be. Because at some point, Target's going to go for my team. Aston Villa have not been impressive. One interesting stat is Ollie Watkins all game had 1 or 2 shots, I believe. Then Keenan Davis comes on at the end of the game for I don't even remember how many minutes. It may have been 5 minutes. It may have just been stoppage time, however long that was. He had 4 shots. He had double Watkins' amount in such a small amount of time. So maybe that just means they need to play like it's the end of the game a little more often. So it looks to me as if Ben Creelan's projecting. There's still question marks, and that's all I'm really interested in seeing at the moment. And that's with regards to the double game week 25, which includes Leicester playing Newcastle and Manchester United, which is pretty significant. The Everton double up against West Ham and Aston Villa. Chelsea double up against Man City and Arsenal, but that's kind of tough. And I would say those are the most important ones. Apparently Arsenal have a double against West Brom and Chelsea. I haven't noticed that. I haven't been keeping up with it too much because I kind of have the players I have, and I've always had strong reasons for making transfers regardless of that anyway. So, and this week I'm not planning on making a transfer. So I'm a little bit behind on the transfer side of things, which is why I had to check. Or, what's it called? The double game weeks. Tinkering getting DCL. Bad idea. Right away, my gut says that it is kind of a bad idea. I think with Bamford, Kane, and either Iheanacho, maybe Wood, I feel like he's been a little bit more creative than Calvert-Lewin, or their team has created more for him, I should say. I'm not a fan of Calvert-Lewin. At this price, it makes me a little bit hesitant. The one good thing about him is I like, obviously, the double in 35. For the next 3 weeks, I will say that he's actually not that bad. Once you factor in the most likely double in Game Week 35, Villa, they just conceded 2 goals when they probably shouldn't have. Obviously, Sheffield United is going to be an amazing fixture, and they have this double here against Villa and West Ham. So for the next 3, Calvert-Lewin isn't bad. I would say the final 2, he almost has no chance of scoring in my opinion. Anything can happen, but it's also just worth taking into consideration that Everton, even when they've had pretty decent fixtures, they haven't done anything. They scored 0 against Brighton. They scored 1 against Crystal Palace. They scored 1 against Burnley. They scored 1 against West Brom. 0 against Chelsea. Can't blame them for that. 1 against Southampton. They have had multiple chances to score multiple goals in these games. The only time they've scored multiple goals is against Tottenham recently, and Calvert-Lewin did not play that game. So against easy teams, they've simply been failing, and this actually goes back for a while. Let's look at the easy fixtures they played. Let's just keep going. So Brighton, 0-0. Crystal Palace, pretty easy matchup. They scored 1. Burnley, they scored 1. West Brom, they scored 1. Southampton, they scored 1. Fulham, at the time, Fulham were defending pretty well, but they still didn't score any against Fulham. They scored 2 against Leeds, which at the time they weren't defending well. So, hey, we got 2 finally. They scored 0 against Newcastle in Gameweek 21. They scored 1 against Sheffield United in Gameweek 15. At this point, we're going to back when Everton were actually good. They had this 5-2 against West Brom, but I believe West Brom got a red card in that game, so you could even write that one off. But last time they scored 3 in, I want to say any game? No, not any game, but in a game against a small team was this Fulham game in Game Week 9. So it's been a while that they've had a 3+. And honestly, they haven't even scored multiple goals in a lot of these easy fixtures. So it's been a long time. It's going to be hard to trust him, especially at 7.5. But if you like to play the fixtures, there's another reason why I would say no to DCL. And besides that, you have alternative options, right? And you could probably just easily go without. Maybe it's an end of the season thing. So last season, at the end of the season, he was pretty bad. I was happy to start off with him again this season because I know there's a big difference with that. And now a lot of people may claim that it's just due to chance. He just got either the bad run of form just happened to happen at that time, and it just happened to happen again coincidentally. Or people would also say that, form isn't a thing, and I don't know, that's how the fixtures lined up. I don't really know what they would say. It's about the team. And Bruno Fernandes just scored for Manchester United against Roma. So that's interesting. He's on my bench currently, so he's making a statement for himself. But what I was going to say is, it's not necessarily just a coincidence that Calvert-Lewin was poor at the end of last season, and he's also doing poor at the end of this season. He's also had some injuries, so that's worth keeping in mind, which is another downside for him. But there's a lot of potential causes for why he could consistently do worse at the end of the season. So of course, at this point, we have a small sample size, but he could have burnout, playing and practicing so much with the same sport over and over again. He could just not come with the same energy, and there's nothing he can really do about that besides finding ways to enjoy the game more, maybe taking breaks. I don't know if the Premier League would or his team would actually let him do this, but in that case, it may actually be worth it to take some time off, and that way you can come back and actually be effective. The team could just fall off. It could be a whole team thing. It could be the way they're being managed. It could also be fitness. But these are the things that can build up at the course of the season. Given that I'm, sort of all about psychology, of course, that's the tool that I'm going to assess it as. Naturally, I'll drift that way and say, oh, he may get burned out at the end of the seasons, but it certainly can happen at the end of the seasons. People can get worse because of burnout. I mean, the numbers aren't even close. Early on in the season, he was just so consistent. This first 14 game weeks, I don't even want to count how many goal returns he had, but it was over 14, and that's fantastic. And I'm happy to say I owned him the whole time. Hey, Kobe, how is it going? Yeah, I'm currently benching Bruno, and that's mainly because of the fixture, but when you look at the players I have on the field, no matter who I bench here, I guess I'll put it this way, there will always be someone that will be like, why would you bench Saka, or why would you bench Lingard? Saka has a great fixture against Newcastle. Lingard against Burnley, that's not necessarily the greatest fixture ever, but Lingard has almost had put himself in a Bruno category recently, especially considering that Bruno has sort of fell out of his own category as, someone that gets played every week regardless of the fixture. But if I had any other person, like if I had, I don't know, Jota, who's another commonly owned player, Gundogan, like I would play Bruno over these guys, I think. But I just have some good fixtures, and I'm not benching Salah. He's been better than Bruno recently. Had 3 or 4 shots last game, so looks pretty good recently. Daniel Jarman. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, Newcastle gave up a lot of shots to Liverpool's attackers last game. And, I mean, Manchester United have to play Liverpool. That's not an easy matchup. So, right away, there's some basis for it. After that, I guess it's down to what my gut feels. And I'm undecided on it. This whole season I've been like, I will never bench Bruno. And I haven't done it yet, so this will be my first time going against that. But I completely understand that his upside is certainly there. But yeah, my initial thought was to play Saka over him, so I've stuck with that. Bruno did have 2 shots last game. Let's take a look at Bruno's how likely he was to score these goals based on expected goals. They do have more to play for, though. That is true. Whether that's a good thing or not for him, I don't know, because it could make them play a little more cagey, depending on like their situation with how many points they think they need, or if they actually think they can win. Which is, I mean, I think it's possible. Man City not always defending the best. I must have went right past it. Okay, here we go. Manchester United versus Leeds. And Leeds have been defending pretty well, so I'm not going to look at this as like, oh, they didn't score, that's a complete fail and an easy matchup. I'm not treating it like that. I'm treating it like it's not good, but it's not like scoring 0 against Sheffield. So Bruno led the team in expected goals. This is based on understat.com. Okay, so this is why I love using 2 different sites or multiple different stat sites, just taking a glance at things. Yahoo Sports, they track shots that aren't blocked. Understat.com, they just count everything as a shot, and if it's blocked, they'll just put it down as low XG, I think. But then again, I'm not sure if they take in defenders' positioning into account. Anyway, Yahoo Sports said that Bruno took 2 shots. Understat says that Bruno took 5 shots. What does that mean? That means he took 5 shots, but 3 of them were blocked, like immediately, like, sort of shot right into defenders. So that means he's kind of forcing shots, like in general. Obviously, I'll have to go back and watch the game. Whether that's a good or bad thing, it can go either way. Forcing shots can, like having a lot of them blocked, can mean that maybe you could create some more chances, get some more assists. He had 2 key passes as well, for an expected assist of 0.12, only beaten on his team by Luke Shaw, who had 5 key passes, which is a lot, and 0.35. So impressive from Shaw there, but also impressive from Bruno with the 5 shots. Now, Leeds, they're typically a much different matchup than other teams, but they've sort of changed their ways and played more like a normal team, I would say. So maybe, I think if they played more like they used to, it would be a little bit more comparable to Liverpool, to be honest. But Donna had to get down from the table. But yeah, that's a decision I'll have to make. I'm not happy with Bruno on the bench, but I just don't know who I would put there. I like the Newcastle matchup. Maybe I should bench Lingard. Maybe I should bench Lingard instead. I don't know. I have to decide more about that. I have to go back and watch the highlights, I suppose. Blue says, I have no chips left and many players that play twice in the supposed double game week 25, but don't play in blank game week 36. I also have United and Spurs cover Shaw, Greenwood, and Kane. In your opinion, would you transfer out Bruno this game week to Son, or would it better prepare you for blank game week 36? I actually said this to someone else that I'm like, you know what? Doing Bruno to Son makes sense. And, a lot of that is riding on this week, and there's no way around that. But Son against Sheffield United, like, that's so much better than Bruno against Liverpool. It's for me, it's not even close. Sheffield United is the best matchup. I'm still sticking by that at the moment. Maybe who else is there that I was thinking? Oh, Newcastle. I think that's also one of the best matchups, but already relegated Sheffield United. Like, once a team's already relegated, there's so much less to play for. If they go down a goal or two early, I think it could easily turn into a 5-0 or, a game like that gets out of hand. So, especially with a relatively new manager and this being such a great matchup, I am not against that move at all, because right away, hopefully you'll get some points out of it. And if you have to find a way to get Bruno in for the double game week, or if you change your mind or whatever happens, there's still time. But hopefully it can get you some immediate points. And typically I would favor that over hopeful long-term points. Even if it's not necessarily hopeful, you're still waiting over a long period of time or a longer period of time, and that allows for more time for things to go wrong. So yeah, I'm quite into the Son and Kane double up this week, that's for sure. Definitely captaining one of them. Unless I captain Saka just to make people mad, which I would never do. Hey Donna, how's it going? So pick one to start. Jota, Bruno, Saiss, Trent, or Shaw. I mean, the Manchester United and Liverpool players give us a lot of dilemmas because they both have a tough matchup, but besides that, they've had some great options, especially with Greenwood and Jota popping up recently. So picking one to start is insane. Out of those, not Jota in my opinion. Saiss is right up there. West Brom's a great fixture. Trent and Shaw are almost even, to be honest. If anything, I would lean towards... I actually want to say... I would probably say Shaw. I mean, they have more to play for. I don't know if that's a good or bad thing, but at least I know they're going to be more committed defensively, I would say. I say they have more to play for. Maybe they don't. You could make the argument that they're locked in the top four, whereas Liverpool had to fight from basically behind to come and get it. I think for me, at the end of the day... Hold on. Before I answer, I got to look at what West Brom did last game. I watched the game, so I should be able to judge it, but I want to see how many expected goals they had. And Wolves did not defend well at all last time. They conceded 2 to Villa, but they also scored 2 against Villa. Villa haven't been great. I'm going to say you play an attacker, to be honest. I think if you don't... Trent or Shaw is fine. I don't think I would go Saiss. I wouldn't go Jota, so we still got a lot on the table here. I think if that was my team, I would play Bruno. I wish I could play Bruno over Trent, that's for sure. If it was in my team, I would certainly do that. Obviously, I can't. Because I can't play a 2-5-3. But I would love to do that. I think if I had to choose, I would go Bruno. I just don't think I can bench Bruno compared to those players. The only attackers there are Jota and Bruno easily beats him. And then we're talking about a big game with defenders that's hard to predict, playing Trent or Shaw, and Saiss versus Bruno. I think I'll always go Bruno there, especially given Wolves' last game. Wolves aren't bad. That's always a decent option, but Saiss also hasn't had the same goal threat that he usually has. And the main reason for Wolves defenders recently was their absolutely amazing fixtures of Fulham and then Sheffield United, where they easily got clean sheets. Burnley, I thought they had a decent chance. I was pretty confident, but I don't think West Brom's quite on that level of Fulham or Sheffield United. But it's perfectly fine to start them. In fact, it's one of the best fixtures still for this week. So the answer is that's crazy, Kobe. I am interested in seeing the rest of your team if that's what you have going on. Maybe you're wildcarding or something, but wow. So let's go back to understat.com and let's take a look at the Liverpool and Newcastle United game. Let's see where the chances came from exactly. If a lot of chances came down the right side of Newcastle's defense, that'll look a little bit better for Saka. And it doesn't appear that way. I mean, we have Salah cutting in. I mean, you could say that Salah and Saka are similar, besides how their names sound like they cut in on their left foot from the right wing. And that's about it. But they are kind of different. But it's all like Salah, his statistics are just going to be so much different than everyone else's. Salah had 3 shots, 3 key passes. Firmino, Salah assisted another one. I mean, we do have some crosses coming in here from the right, but that's from Trent. Like, these are sort of unavoidable things. I don't know if this necessarily means that it's a tactical thing. I mean, this looks pretty balanced to me. Like, even this shot on the left, the assist comes from Trent from the right side. So, if anything, I mean, I'd say a lot of the crosses came from the right. This one was from Mane to Jota. This shot here was from Robertson to Mane. Another Robertson to Mane. Salah to Mane. Trent to Mane. Firmino to Salah. I mean, it's not terrible, but it's nothing significant there at all. Doesn't really tell me anything. I mean, I don't know. I probably should play Bruno over Saka, but again, it's such a great fixture. Who else could I bench? Let's look at Lingard. I'll pull up all their recent statistics, actually. So, let's look at Lingard, Bruno, and I'll throw Jota in here as well for people that want to make that decision. And I will throw in Salah, Saka. I'll throw in Gundogan for people because obviously he's pretty highly owned. And I'll throw in some random people like Mason Mount. Alright, so Salah, Bruno, Gundogan, Lingard, Jota, Mount, and Saka. Let's go recently. So let's go past 2 months. February 28th, since there is no February 29th. And let's filter it. And let's see what we got. So all of them have played about 7 games. Differs for all of them. Expected goals per 90 minutes. Of course, Lingard and Salah are tied. It's just so hard to bench Lingard. Saka beats Mount. Saka is only 0.06 behind Bruno. And he has a higher non-penalty expected goals per 90 minutes since February 28th. So, Bruno relying on penalties, really. Is there a higher than 4% chance that Manchester United get a penalty against Liverpool? I'd probably say yes. I'd probably say it's at least 10%. Maybe not at least, but 10% is probably reasonable. So, if we just take random guesses and make up statistics, as I just did, I would say that Bruno probably has a little more goal threat. If you don't take the fixture into consideration, because does he really have a 20% chance of scoring against Liverpool from open play? I'm not convinced. I really don't think so. I think that takes it down a lot. I would be surprised if that would be the case. So, I don't know. I think Saka's got a decent chance. Expected assist, Bruno does beat Saka, though. And of course, he beats him on expected goals as well, but that's penalty dependent. Either way, they're both pretty close. Expected goal involvement over the past 2 months, Bruno 0.55, Saka 0.4. So, taking the fixture into consideration, does that boost Saka's expected goal involvement 15% more than Bruno? I think that's reasonable enough, right? So I don't think playing one or the other is necessarily crazy. Jota beats both of those guys with 0.57 expected goal involvement. Salah, of course, kills everybody with 0.72. And Lingard's at 0.63. I don't see a way I can bench really any of these players. I don't want to bench Bruno at all, but I think. Oh, and actually, Mason Mount beats Jesse Lingard. 8 appearances, 1.56 expected goals, 2.76 expected goals against, expected goal involvement of 0.67 for Mr. Mount. Wouldn't necessarily advise getting him, but still pretty good statistics. By the way, Mane has underperformed his expected goals this season by so much. Like, he had 6 shots last game. He just doesn't really do anything, I suppose. His finishing days are not current. Captaincy is, in my opinion, I think it's straightforward. Kane and Son should be healthy. Sheffield United, well, let's take a look at Sheffield United's recent results. Last game wasn't bad for Sheffield United. They won 1-0 versus Brighton. Don't know how that happened. Maybe they're going to play better now that they're relegated. But there's also Brighton. Brighton failed to score against Chelsea. Can't blame them for that, really. Before that, Brighton also failed to score against Everton. So it's not like they shocked the world with that Brighton clean sheet. Before that, Sheffield United conceded 3 to Arsenal, who, guess what they did last week? Scored 0 against Everton. So putting the fixtures into context like that is something I love to do. And Sheffield United conceded 1 to Wolves, who just scored 0 against Burnley. So that looks pretty good as well. Before that, Sheffield United conceded, before the Arsenal game, Sheffield United conceded 2 to Leeds. And they haven't really been that high scoring of a team either, have they? I mean, they scored 2 against Man City. Red card counterattack game. A little bit weird. 1 against Liverpool. They've had tough fixtures, so it's hard to judge. 0 against United. But I see Sheffield United and I see teams scoring, about what they have been recently or way more with regards to 2 of the last 3. So I still think it's a good fixture, and it always will be. You see Kane, Sheffield United at home. I don't think you can go wrong with this at all. But who knows? With regards to the benching, maybe Bruno's performance today will make me throw him in there against Saka. But I will say today is Thursday. I don't know why I had to check that. Today's Thursday, and Man United play on Sunday against Liverpool. I mean, he'll be fine, right? But it adds a little bit of rotation risk. Let's go to Manchester United fixtures. See if there's any potential rotation risk there. I mean, they're tied 1-1 right now with Roma in the 30th minute. And they have to play again next week. And that's very important. I mean, that's Europa League. Maybe it's not too important considering they're going to make the Champions League anyway. But it's still the semifinal and a chance for a trophy, which would be huge for the manager, the one making the decisions about who plays. He would definitely want a trophy. So I think if Bruno's benched, it's unlikely, as it always is with Bruno, but it's at least a possibility. So just a little nugget of information to consider, I would suppose. And Villarreal are beating Arsenal 2-0 at the moment. So disregard what I just said. I'm gonna go bench Saka. Not really, but let me look at this Arsenal lineup real quick. Who are Arsenal playing against Villarreal? They're getting killed apparently. They conceded in the 5th minute and the 29th minute. Saka is starting. Interesting lineup. They're playing Odegaard, Pepe, Smith Rowe, and Saka. So maybe Odegaard's playing as a striker. They're playing Callum Chambers and Xhaka in the same game. So it's not surprising that they're losing. I'll just put it that way. Fellaini haircut. I guess it sort of does look like that from the camera angle. Would you keep Watkins? So we got a likely double game week in game week 35 for Mr. Watkins. I haven't been impressed with Villa's creativity. The 2 goals against West Brom is probably just because that was a pretty good fixture. Other than that, they haven't impressed me. Against Everton, Everton defended pretty well last game, even though they were terrible offensively. There's a decent chance for Watkins. I still don't love him. Then he gets the double game week, and they will play. Let's see. They'll play Everton and Manchester United in the double game week. So that doesn't really look great, even though it is a double. I mean, you could keep him for 2 more weeks if you have other transfers to make or you don't feel like making one. Because, I mean, Bamford, they play Tottenham in Game Week 35, right? That's not a necessary transfer necessarily. Iheanacho, if you don't have him, they do play Southampton and Newcastle, but then you're probably going to have to sell him anyway right after that as well. You'd probably want to sell Watkins after 35 if you decide to keep him. But you could keep Watkins for 2 more weeks. I think that's the conservative move. Who would you really transfer in, though? That's the question. You could even keep him till 36. Crystal Palace. You already kept him for this long. 37 and 38. Not too interested in Watkins. But who would you get? That's the question. Chris Wood is untrustworthy as far as forwards go. I'm just not really sure there's great options out there. Iheanacho could be some, a better option this week with how good he's been. It's kind of in undeniable form at the moment. Callum Wilson, I just don't trust him. Not good fixtures either. That's a definite no. Yeah, I mean, you could keep Watkins. It's a tough situation. I feel like he's been so poor for his owners, not returning enough at all. So I would definitely have the urge to get rid of him if I was in your shoes, but I think it's a Iheanacho or nothing. You have to decide which one's better, and you may already have a Iheanacho. But is it worth a transfer? I don't know. It's at that middle ground where you can make the argument either way. The issue is either way, you're probably going to want to transfer in the future. Eddie Dzeko just scored against Manchester United. So Roma are up 2-1. And that's only the 33rd minute. I'm going to have to turn that game on at halftime. Actually, I don't really know of a way to watch that. I'll have to find a stream online, I suppose. Completely legal, of course. I would never break the law. That would be ridiculous. You had Woodinho last week, Kobe? That's crazy. That's crazy. Slim pickings start Soufal or Holding. That is pretty slim pickings, but I think you have some hope here. Right away, I want to say you start the Arsenal man, Rob Holding. Soufal, of course, comes with a little bit of goal, or not goal threat, more like assist threat that Holding doesn't necessarily have. But this Newcastle fixture looks pretty good. They were lucky to score against Liverpool, I would say personally. Other recent performances, they scored 3 against West Ham. But as good as that looks for Newcastle, it also looks bad for your other option, Soufal. They scored 2 against Burnley as well. I mean, they've been scoring well besides last game. I felt like Liverpool had a great control of the game until the final seconds. I don't know. Burnley are unpredictable at the moment. Just because of last game, it makes me doubt everything. I think I would play Rob Holding. Arsenal defensively, they're a little more reliable, not necessarily with regards to clean sheets, but they tend to concede 0 or 1 goals most of the time. They've got, over the course of the season, if you look at like how many goals they've conceded, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. You could even say they've been a little bit unlucky to not keep more clean sheets. So I would go Rob Holding. Let's take a look at goals conceded over the course of the season. Goals against. We got Arsenal with 37. That's right up there with Villa. I'm pretty sure Villa have way more clean sheets. They've conceded less than Liverpool, Tottenham, West Ham. They've only conceded 6 more than Chelsea. So they've conceded less than Leicester. Only 2 more than United. They've been a good defense. A little bit unlucky to not keep clean sheets. They haven't really had that real great run of points for FPL owners, but they had some decent, little strings of points, I suppose. I had Holding earlier. I kind of like him in this matchup. I like Arsenal versus Newcastle. I really do. I just think Newcastle aren't that good. So, yeah, one of the first times you'll hear me say, "Oh, Newcastle, great. Play your Arsenal players." Oh yeah, Arsenal are such a good team. But yeah, Arsenal and Manchester United both losing at the moment. Oh, that sucks, Adam. I've had that. One time I was able to watch, what fight was it? It was some boxing match. Maybe it was a YouTuber boxing match. I don't remember. But I was able to find someone just streaming it on Twitter, and somehow it never got copyright strike or anything like that. So let me take a look at the Digne question, Mr. Blues. Do you think Digne is Everton's best player in terms of FPL due to the game week and the 2 great fixtures after that? Yes. And the main reason why is, your question is, are they Everton's best player? And that's an easy criteria to fit, my friend. At the moment, who else is competing for the spot? I mean, you could say James or Calvert-Lewin. Digne is certainly the highest scoring defender. I mean, I suppose you could make an argument for one of the other defenders because they're cheaper, but with that cheapness also comes no attacking threat, really, and rotation risk as well. So I think Digne is the clear option there from Everton if you're going to go that way. There are some cheaper options that you can find elsewhere, like Wolves guys. You can go with, I was going to say Phillips, but now he's injured. That sort of fell apart. I thought that was really going to be a big, I can play him every week. I said that so many times, too. I'm like, at least I can play Phillips every week. Good fixtures. He gets hurt. Didn't even play one game for me. I mean, the Arsenal guys have decent fixtures, like Holding and cheap as well, but I think Digne is a good option if you're willing to spend that much. Some good fixtures, the double, yeah. Everton's certainly their best option, in my opinion. By the way, Vardy had like 4 shots last game, so that's a little bit more than he has been getting. If he keeps that up, he could certainly be an option. But with this little amount of good fixtures left, I don't see a reason to transfer him in, especially if you don't have Kane. From this point on, Kane is almost must-own because of the consistency of fixtures. He provides a captaincy option most of these weeks, and I think the same can be said for Salah. Salah, you could captain him for the rest of the season after game week 34, so almost a must-have, if there ever is a must-have. I would almost put Son in that category as well because of his nailed-onness, and only 9.5 for somebody that's got 15 goals and 9 assists this season. Especially when Bruno isn't necessarily on fire. I think those 3, there's no chance they leave my team, besides injuries or suspensions. They're almost must-haves. Lingard can almost fit in that category just based on value alone, but also fixtures put him up there. So those right there, that's 4 must-haves. Probably a Liverpool defender or another Liverpool player besides Salah, simply because the fixtures are so good. And they're starting to look a little bit better. Defensively, I would say, unlucky not to keep that clean sheet last game. So, a fan of the Liverpool double up, and just having them for the rest of the season makes things convenient. There are a lot of decent options that aren't long-term, like Semedo, like Iheanacho, players like Watkins that aren't bad, Calvert-Lewin even, or Digne, the Everton guys. Like, not necessarily, good options, but just, I don't know if you can really hold them for the rest of the season. I'll have to figure out the goalkeeper situation. I do get some people, if you're on wildcard or if you were on it soon or you're looking to make a goalkeeper transfer, let's talk about the best goalkeepers because I think it's a hard decision to make at the moment. I think the simplest way to go is to go with a goalkeeper that has a double just because goalkeepers are hard to predict in a lot of cases. So getting the extra game is an easy way to get more points. Right away, the goalkeepers I would rule off is any sort of rotation risk. So, De Gea, Henderson, gone. Mendy's almost in that category, to be honest. He doesn't have a double. He has bad fixtures as well. I don't like the Mendy pick anymore. I get why people brought him in a couple weeks ago or maybe even last week. They still are good defense. He's still a fine option, but I think I would probably go cheaper and try to spend money elsewhere if that makes sense with the team. I still don't mind Fabianski. Doesn't have the double, but good fixtures. You can at least play him every week and feel reasonably comfortable. I don't think you can go too wrong with Areola just because he's cheap. 4.6 this week, not great, but besides game week 37, I would say these are good fixtures. So a cheap option there. The one person I want to look at is Meslier. they have good fixtures besides Tottenham. So if you're not interested in the double, Meslier is the way to go, in my opinion. I put him above both of my goalkeepers at the moment. If I had to make a transfer, he could very easily come in. With the way they've been defending recently, it's been pretty impressive. Sanchez, Brighton are right there with Arsenal on number of goals conceded, but the fixtures are terrible and no double. I would love to say that Everton have an option over the next 3 game weeks, but with rotation there, I simply don't trust them that much. Robin Olsen can come in and play sometimes. I'm not a fan of dealing with that from goalkeepers because you don't have to deal with that for 80% of the goalkeepers. So it's just such an unnecessary risk, in my opinion, and especially given that typically you can always find a goalkeeper replacement. Like you can always find someone to get a similar amount of points. As far as goalkeepers go, it's not worth any sort of risk that's involved. But you may also want a goalkeeper that plays in the double, and that's kind of the issue. I wish Johnson had a double. Maybe that's going to be something I could do, bring in a goalkeeper that plays double game week 35. Are there any reliable ones that week? Martinez, is that who it's going to be for everybody? I didn't want to say him because he's kind of expensive. I mean, Arsenal, you have to deal with rotation there too, apparently. Chelsea, of course, with Mendy, but they play Man City and Arsenal. Forster's not necessarily going to play. I mean, maybe Schmeichel. I know a lot of people have him. I'm still not the hugest fan of him. Their defense hasn't impressed me too much recently. They have one good and one bad in what's supposedly going to be double game week 35. But maybe Martinez will be the way to go. Again, not great fixtures, but Everton and United in 35. I think him or Schmeichel would be the way to go if you have a goalkeeper rotation and you want to play someone in game week 35 that doubles. And I guess that sort of translates to the rest of their defenders as well. And free hit options, all that kind of stuff. Because those teams have some relevant fantasy options, especially Villa. With some defenders that week could be decent. Watkins maybe that week could be decent. Not a lot of the game week 35. The doubles really stand out to me. It's not like we have a great team with 2 easy fixtures that week that pops out to me. So I haven't thought about it too much because I also don't want to have to deal with blanks in the future. So as long as I have a decent balance for the rest of the season, I will be fine. With that said, I think I've covered a lot in this stream. I don't feel like I have too much to cover. So we will end the stream soon. Adam FPL says, I watched the Jake Paul fight on YouTube without it being copyrighted, but it was still a waste of time. Yeah, the most recent one I didn't watch because, I didn't care that much, to be honest, but Ben Askren was a real letdown. Obviously, nobody wants Jake Paul to win, or maybe you do, but Ben Askren, I don't think it was staged, but Ben Askren just didn't train, I don't think, and didn't care. I think he was also confused about what the ref was asking him to do. You got to apply some pressure, or you got to let your hands rest still, and the ref's got to feel that you're not tense to know that you didn't get knocked out partially and you're still in fight mode. He may have just been confused about that. Either way, it points to him not really training. I don't think he cared. But, yeah, I think the fight I watched I was talking about earlier was KSI Logan Paul 2. That's what it was. And, of course, I wanted KSI to win. Because back when I was a kid, I watched me some KSI. FIFA 13. People at that age absolutely loved it. But yeah, that's a whole nother story. I guess one thing I should mention is differential captains. I don't think it's necessarily the week for it. Bamford against Brighton looks tempting, but Brighton have been pretty good defensively over the course of the season, and that includes last week. I think the way to go, and I'm actually going to change here to my vice captain being a Iheanacho. I think that would be the way to go if you do go differential. There's always Lingard available as well. Besides that, Salah and Bruno, can you ever really go wrong with them? Possibly not. And And I guess, Arsenal, Saka as well, not a bad option. Son. One of these two, Kane or Son, is going to be the way to go. I just think it's too much of a good fixture to try to go against. Let's take a look at next week. When's a good captaincy, differential to look towards? I'll skip over Game Week 35 because it'll probably be someone that's doubling, and that's no fun. Man City, Game Week 36 against Newcastle. If you try to predict the rotation, you could go with someone like, I don't know, Mahrez, Jesus, and take a risk, but you're probably not going to want them in your team for longer term. Liverpool against West Brom is going to be the way to go here for most people. That's Salah and Jota, so maybe Jota or Trent would provide a differential captain for most people. So yeah, those are things you're looking for. Maybe bring them in to captain them. With that said, I will end the stream there. Thank you guys for watching, whether it's live or on the replay. And I will see you guys next time. So I will not be deadline streaming because I will be working at the time tomorrow. So good luck with your final deadline decisions. No transfer for me. Only decision left, benching Bruno or Saka. Captaincy, vice captaincy, which I just changed, will certainly stay the same. And hopefully I can get another green arrow. Shout out to all the people that are beating me in the Beat Block League. You only have a couple weeks left, probably about 5. I can't do math. Only a couple weeks left to try to retain your position in the league as well as just beating me, which seems to be pretty easy for a lot of people at the moment, and that includes some people in chat at the moment, including Adam FPL and Blues FPL. So good job, guys. That includes, well, I'm not reading all these names. I will see you guys in the next time. Have a good game week, just not as good as mine, of course, as always. Like the video and all of that. Subscribe for more, and bye.